The sun was sinking fast behind the red hills, turning the sky above Lorvis Colony into a sea of orange and violet. Shops were closing, lights were flickering on one by one, and people were hurrying to finish their business before darkness claimed the streets. Everyone in Lorvis knew the night did not belong to humans. Ethan, a young traveler from Earth, sat outside the small inn where he had rented a room for the night. He was cleaning the dust off his boots when he noticed something strange. Across the street, near the edge of the forest path, an old alien woman was struggling with a basket full of firewood. Her back was bent, her hands trembling as she tried to lift it. The basket tipped, spilling half the wood onto the dirt. People walked by, but no one helped her. Some even crossed to the other side, whispering under their breath. Ethan could hear a few words. Cursed, stay away, not safe. Ethan frowned. He had heard many rumors since arriving that morning. Some said the forest was haunted. Others spoke of strange lights and voices in the night. But an old woman? What harm could she do? The woman tried again to lift the basket, but her thin arms gave out. She nearly fell. Without thinking twice, Ethan got up and crossed the street. "Let me help you," he said. The old woman looked up slowly. Her eyes startled him. They were glowing faint gold, like embers hidden in ash. For a moment, she said nothing, just studied him as though searching for something inside his soul. Then she nodded once and stepped aside. Ethan picked up the basket. It was heavier than it looked, filled not only with wood but also strange herbs wrapped in leaves. "Where to?" he asked. She pointed toward the dark path leading into the forest. "My hut. Near the stream," she said softly. Her voice was old but carried a strange, echoing tone, as if two people spoke at once. As they walked, the noise of the town faded. The path grew narrow. The trees on either side stood tall and twisted, their branches like black claws scratching the sky. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. No birds, no insects, only the crunch of leaves underfoot. Ethan felt the hair on his neck rise. The air was colder here, heavy, as if the forest was holding its breath. "Not many people help strangers here," the old woman said after a long silence. "Maybe they should," Ethan replied. "It doesn't cost much to be kind." The woman gave a low laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Kindness always has a cost," she whispered. Ethan glanced at her. The words felt heavy, like they carried a secret meaning he didn't understand. They reached a small clearing where a hut stood. It was old, made of dark wood and stones, with a single lantern burning near the door. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, glowing faintly as if painted with light instead of paint. Ethan set the basket near the door. "Here you go," he said. The woman looked at him for a long moment. The lantern's glow showed her face clearly now, wrinkled, weathered, but her golden eyes shone like liquid fire. "You didn't have to help," she said. "Maybe I wanted to," Ethan replied with a shrug. She tilted her head slightly, as though studying him again. "You remind me of someone long gone." Before Ethan could ask who, a wind rose suddenly, rushing through the clearing. The lantern flickered wildly. From somewhere deep in the forest came a sound, low, like whispering voices carried on the wind. Ethan froze. What was that? The old woman didn't even look toward the trees. "The forest talks at night," she said calmly. Best not to listen too closely. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the trees were leaning toward them, listening. The shadows seemed to move just beyond the edge of the lantern's light. "Do you live here alone?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "I have been alone for a very long time," she said softly. There was a sadness in her voice, deep and old, like the weight of centuries pressed on every word. Ethan nodded slowly. "Well, take care of yourself." He turned to leave, but the woman spoke again, her voice carrying strangely through the cold air. "Kindness returns to those who give it," she said, "sometimes in ways they never expect." Ethan glanced back. She was standing in the doorway now, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark, watching him. Back on the path to the town, Ethan felt uneasy. The wind carried the whispering again, words he couldn't understand. The forest felt alive, as if hundreds of eyes followed him through the darkness. When he finally reached his room above the inn, he couldn't sleep. The image of the old woman, the strange glow in her eyes, the whispering forest, it all stayed with him. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The night in Lorvis was never truly silent. The wind howled softly through the narrow streets. Wooden signs creaked on their rusty hinges, and sometimes, far away in the forest, a strange cry would echo. But tonight was different. Ethan lay awake in his small room above the inn, staring at the ceiling. He had tried to sleep, but his mind kept drifting back to the old alien woman with the golden eyes. There was something about her, something he couldn't explain. Her words kept repeating in his head. Kindness always returns, sometimes in ways you never expect. He didn't know why, but it felt like a warning. Outside, the wind grew stronger. The shutters rattled. Then, there was a sound. At first, Ethan thought it was the wind playing tricks on him. But no, this was different. It was like voices, faint and echoing, speaking in a language he didn't know. The sound came from the direction of the forest. He sat up, heart pounding. The whispers grew louder. Ethan moved to the window. The forest edge was dark, the trees swaying like black giants under the moonlight. And there, just for a second, he saw it. A light. It wasn't fire. It wasn't a lantern. It was pale, almost silver, moving between the trees like it had a mind of its own. Then he saw shadows, tall figures, 3, maybe 4, walking slowly toward the old woman's hut. Ethan grabbed his coat and boots. He didn't even stop to think. Something was wrong. He had to see what was happening. The streets of Lorvis were empty as he ran through them. Doors were shut tight, windows locked, not a single soul outside. The wind carried the sound of the whispers again, clearer this time, like chanting. The path into the forest felt colder than before. The air was thick, heavy. The trees stood like silent guards as he made his way toward the clearing where the old woman lived. Then he heard it. A scream. It wasn't human. It was sharp, high-pitched, almost metallic. It made his skin crawl. Ethan ran faster. As he reached the clearing, he froze. The old woman's hut was glowing faintly, strange symbols on its walls shining like fireflies. The tall, shadowy figures stood around it, moving slowly, their bodies wrapped in dark cloaks. Their eyes burned red under their hoods. One of them raised a hand, and the symbols on the hut flickered. The air crackled like a storm was about to break. Inside the hut, Ethan saw the old woman's shape standing by the window. She wasn't moving. "Hey!" Ethan shouted before he could stop himself. The cloaked figures turned. Ethan felt his stomach drop. Their faces were not faces at all. They were smooth, pale, with no eyes, no mouths, no features. Just blank masks glowing faintly in the dark. The tallest one stepped forward, pointing a long, bony finger at him. "Human." A voice hissed, but it didn't come from a mouth. It came from inside Ethan's head. He stumbled back, heart racing. The old woman finally stepped out of the hut. Her golden eyes glowed brighter now, cutting through the darkness like twin suns. "You should not be here," she said to Ethan, her voice calm but carrying power. Who are they?" Ethan asked, his voice shaking. "Hunters," she said simply. "They come for what they do not understand, for what they fear." The figures moved closer, surrounding the clearing. The tallest one raised its hand again, and black smoke began to swirl around its body, spreading like a storm cloud. "Give us the relic," the voice hissed again. "Or burn." Ethan looked at the old woman. Her face was calm, but her hands were glowing faintly, golden light spilling from her fingertips. "I have no relic," she said coldly, "but you have come too close to what is mine." The air cracked. A sudden blast of golden light burst from her palms, hitting the nearest figure. It screamed, falling back as the light burned through its shadowy form. The others attacked at once. Ethan ducked as black fire shot across the clearing, hitting the trees, leaving smoking scars on the ground. The old woman moved like a storm, her hands weaving patterns in the air, golden energy swirling around her. But Ethan could see she was struggling. Each blast of light left her weaker. Her shoulders trembled. Her breathing grew heavy. The hunters closed in again, their movements fast, silent, relentless. Ethan grabbed a fallen branch. He didn't know what he was doing. He just knew he couldn't stand there and watch. He swung at the nearest figure. The branch passed through its shadowy body, but it staggered back, hissing. "Go!" the old woman shouted. "Leave this place." But Ethan didn't move. Something told him, if he left now, he would never see her again. And deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning of something much bigger. Something he didn't yet understand. The clearing was chaos. Golden light from the old woman clashed with the hunter's dark energy. The air shook with every strike. Trees cracked as branches fell burning to the ground. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, his heart hammering in his chest. He had never seen anything like this. The old woman moved with surprising speed for someone who looked so fragile. Her hands traced strange shapes in the air, symbols glowing before flying like arrows into the hunters. Each hit made them shriek in rage, their shadowy bodies rippling as if struck by sunlight. But Ethan could see it. She was getting weaker. Her glowing eyes dimmed a little after every blast. Her steps grew slower. Sweat beaded on her pale blue skin. The hunters circled closer. Their leader, the one with the red burning eyes, raised a staff made of black metal. A thin line of smoke rose from it, curling into the night sky. Ethan didn't know why, but he felt danger in his bones. If that staff touched her, something terrible would happen. "Stop!" he shouted, grabbing a stone from the ground and throwing it at the leader. It hit the creature's shoulder. The thing turned slowly toward him, its red eyes burning brighter. Ethan's stomach dropped. That was a mistake. The creature pointed the staff at him. A blast of black fire shot forward. Ethan jumped aside just in time. The ground where he had been standing exploded, leaving a smoking hole. The old woman turned sharply. For the first time, Ethan heard anger in her voice. "You dare harm what is under my protection?" Golden light burst from her hands again, brighter than before. It slammed into the leader, sending it flying backward. The others hissed and retreated into the trees. The clearing fell silent except for the crackling of burning branches. Ethan's ears rang. His hands shook. The old woman stood in the center of the clearing, shoulders rising and falling as she breathed heavily. Her glow was fading fast. Are you okay?" Ethan asked carefully. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned slowly toward him. Her glowing eyes locked on his. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The wind stopped. The trees stilled. Even the smoke from the burning ground froze in the air. Then, it happened. The old woman straightened. Her bent back lifted. The wrinkles on her face began to smooth out like ice melting in the sun. Her hair, once thin and gray, turned long and silver, shining under the moonlight. Ethan stepped back, eyes wide. She was changing. The glow in her eyes spread across her skin, erasing every mark of age. Her hands, once trembling, now looked strong and graceful, glowing faint gold as though sunlight lived under her skin. The torn shawl she wore dissolved into dust, replaced by flowing robes of silver light wrapping around her like living cloth. Ethan could only stare. The old woman was gone. Before him stood a tall, breathtaking figure, her beauty almost painful to look at. Her golden eyes blazed like twin suns. Her hair floated as if moved by unseen winds, and the air around her shimmered with energy. She spoke, her voice no longer old and cracked but deep and smooth, carrying power in every word. "I have been hidden for too long," she said softly. "But your kindness, it broke the curse." Ethan's mouth went dry. He had no words. The woman smiled faintly, though there was sadness in her eyes. "I am not what I seemed," she continued. "I was bound in a weak form, waiting for someone who would help without asking, without fear." Ethan's mind raced. You were cursed?" She nodded slowly. "The hunters feared what I was. They trapped me in a dying shell. Only true kindness could free me. Ethan's thoughts stumbled over themselves. He had helped her because she was old, because she needed it, not because he wanted anything in return. And now this. What are you? He whispered. She stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing brighter. I am Serenia, she said softly, one of the last demigoddesses of the Starborn. The hunters will come again, but next time they will face all of me. The ground under her feet glowed faintly. The air shimmered like heat rising from stone. Ethan felt power rolling off her like waves from a stormy sea. But even as she stood tall and radiant, her hands trembled slightly. The battle had cost her more strength than she admitted. Ethan saw it, the way her shoulders slumped just for a second before she straightened again. She turned toward him. You should leave this place, she said. What comes next will not be safe for you. But Ethan shook his head. Something inside him refused to walk away. He didn't know why. Maybe it was because he had seen too much already. Maybe because he knew she was in danger. Or maybe because he felt this was only the beginning of something much larger than himself. As the moonlight fell over the clearing, Serenia's golden eyes softened. You helped me once, she said. But now, human, you may find helping me comes with a price. And with that, the wind began to rise again, carrying whispers through the dark trees. The hunters would return, and Ethan's life would never be the same again. The wind died down slowly after the battle, but the smell of burnt wood and smoke still lingered in the air. The clearing felt different now, less like a quiet patch of forest and more like the center of something ancient waking from a long sleep. Ethan stood there, staring at the woman who had once been a bent, wrinkled alien granny. Now, she was tall, graceful, and glowing faintly in the moonlight, her silver hair flowing like liquid light down her back. She had said her name was Serenia, a demigoddess. Ethan struggled to believe it. Just minutes ago, he had helped her carry a basket like she was any ordinary old woman. And now she stood there like a living flame wrapped in human form. You should go, she said softly, her golden eyes fixed on the dark treeline. They will return. Ethan didn't move. Those things, the hunters, what do they want? Serenia turned her gaze on him. Even though her face was calm, her eyes carried centuries of pain. They want me dead, she said, or captured. To them I am a danger, a reminder of what they fear the most. And what's that? Ethan asked carefully. She paused, her glowing hands clasping in front of her. A free being with the power to fight them. The hunters serve those who wish to control everything in the outer realms. My kind once stopped them. They haven't forgiven us. Ethan swallowed hard. He felt like he had stepped into a story far bigger than himself. Why were you cursed? He asked. Her voice softened. Because I was careless. I trusted the wrong ones. They struck when I was weakened. The curse locked my powers inside a dying shell. I had no strength to break it myself. She looked at him then, her golden eyes brighter. Until you helped me. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. I didn't do much. I just carried your basket. That was enough, Serenia said. Kindness given freely is rarer than you think. The words hung in the air like falling leaves. Ethan didn't know what to say. He had never thought of himself as anyone special. He wasn't a soldier or a hero or someone with grand plans. He was just a traveler passing through. But now, this strange, powerful woman looked at him like he had changed everything. Serenia stepped closer. Her glow lit the ground between them. I owe you a debt, she said. And I do not forget debts. Ethan raised his hands quickly. I didn't help you for a reward. You don't owe me anything. She tilted her head slightly, a faint smile touching her lips. And that, she whispered, is why the reward must be given. Before Ethan could answer, she raised one hand. Golden light swirled above her palm, bright but soft, like liquid sunlight. The forest around them glowed faintly in its warmth. Ethan stared at it. What is that? My life essence, Serenia said. A gift, a bond between us. It will give you strength, protect you in ways you cannot yet understand. Ethan stepped back. Wait, I didn't ask for this. You didn't ask to be hunted either, Serenia said firmly. But after tonight you will be. They saw you fight beside me. That is enough to put a mark on your head. Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. She was right. Those creatures with the blank faces had looked at him like he was prey. Serenia lowered her hand, the light swirling lazily like a living thing. You can leave if you want, she said softly. Run. Hide. Try to forget all this. Her golden eyes held his. But they will find you eventually. The only way to survive is to accept my gift. Ethan looked at the light, at her glowing face, at the forest where shadows still moved far away. Why me? He asked finally. Because you acted without wanting anything in return, Serenia said. Power should only be given to those who do not crave it. The wind stirred again, carrying a faint whisper through the trees. It almost sounded like voices chanting from far away. The hunters were still out there, regrouping, waiting. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. His life had been simple until today. Now he was standing in a cursed forest with a glowing demigoddess offering him something he didn't even understand. But deep inside, he knew there was no going back. He opened his eyes and nodded slowly. What do I have to do? Serenia stepped closer, holding the golden light between them. Pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Only take my hand, she said. The bond will do the rest. Ethan hesitated only a moment before reaching out. As his fingers touched hers, the golden light burst around them, warm and blinding, wrapping both of them in its glow. Ethan gasped as heat and energy rushed through him like fire and wind and thunder all at once. And somewhere deep inside, something began to change. The golden light slowly faded, leaving the clearing quiet again. Ethan stood frozen, his hands still tingling from where he had touched Serenia's. He felt different. It wasn't easy to explain. His body felt stronger, his senses sharper. Like the air itself carried whispers he could almost understand. Serenia watched him carefully, her golden eyes calm but serious. It is done, she said softly. Our bond is sealed. Ethan looked down at his hands. They glowed faintly for a moment before the light sank into his skin and vanished. What did you give me? He asked. Protection, Serenia said. Strength, and a part of my life essence. It will keep you alive when nothing else can. Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure if he felt honored or terrified. Before he could speak again, a sound cut through the night, low, metallic, like blades scraping against stone. Serenia's head snapped toward the forest. They're here. The words sent a chill down Ethan's spine. From the darkness between the trees, the hunters returned. This time there were more of them. Their cloaked shapes moved like smoke under the moonlight, tall and silent. Red eyes glowed faintly under their hoods, watching from the shadows. Ethan counted at least 6, maybe 7. The leader was among them, carrying the same black staff that had burned the ground before. The hunters stopped at the edge of the clearing, forming a half-circle around Serenia and Ethan. The leader stepped forward. Its voice hissed directly into their minds, cold and sharp. Give us the demigoddess, and we will let the human live. Ethan's stomach twisted. They weren't here for him. At least not yet. Serenia stood tall, her silver hair glowing faintly in the moonlight. You will not have me, she said firmly. Not now. Not ever. The leader raised its staff. Dark energy rippled along its length like liquid shadow. Then you will burn, the voice hissed. The attack came fast. Bolts of black fire shot across the clearing, smashing into the ground where Ethan had been standing seconds ago. He threw himself aside, rolling behind a fallen log as dirt and smoke exploded into the air. Serenia raised her hands. Golden light burst out, forming a shield in front of her. The next blast of dark energy hit it, sending sparks flying like a storm of fireflies. The clearing turned into chaos again. Light against darkness, power against power. Ethan watched in awe as Serenia moved. She was fast, her golden blasts slicing through the air like arrows of sunlight. Each one hit a hunter, burning through their shadowy forms, making them shriek in rage. But there were too many this time. The hunters spread out, attacking from all sides. One leapt forward, swinging a blade made of dark crystal. Serenia blocked it with a wave of light, but another hunter attacked from behind. Ethan didn't think. He grabbed a broken branch and ran at the second hunter, swinging with all his strength. The branch hit its side. The creature stumbled, hissing, before turning on him. Its red eyes burned like fire. Ethan stepped back, heart pounding. For a second, he thought it would kill him. Then his hand glowed faintly. Without knowing how, he raised it, and a thin shield of golden light appeared in front of him. The hunter's blade struck the shield and bounced back with a flash of sparks. Ethan stared at his own hand in shock. Serenia's power. It was inside him. The leader saw this. Its red eyes locked on Ethan. The human carries your essence. The voice hissed in anger. Then he dies first. It raised its staff. A storm of black fire gathered at the tip, swirling like a dark sun. Serenia's face hardened. She moved faster than Ethan could follow, appearing between him and the hunter just as the blast shot forward. Her golden shield met the black fire with a deafening crash. The ground shook. Trees cracked. The air turned blinding white for a moment before both powers exploded outward, throwing everyone back. Ethan hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of him. When he looked up, the hunters were retreating into the trees, their bodies flickering like smoke in the wind. The leader stood at the edge of the clearing, its red eyes burning with hate. "This is not over," the voice hissed. "The bond will not save you. We will come again." Then they vanished into the darkness. The clearing was silent except for the crackling of burning wood. Ethan pushed himself up slowly, his body aching. Serenia stood nearby, breathing heavily, her golden glow dimmer than before. "You saved me," Ethan said quietly. She looked at him with unreadable eyes. "And now you see the truth. They will not stop. Not until one of us is gone." Ethan felt the weight of her words like a stone in his chest. For the first time since this began, he realized he was no longer just a traveler passing through. He was part of this now, and there was no turning back. The clearing was quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that felt heavy, like the whole forest was holding its breath. Ethan stood in the middle of it, his heart still beating fast, his arms shaking from the fight. His clothes were covered in dust, his throat dry, but his mind was racing. The hunters were gone. For now. Serenia stood near the edge of the clearing, her silver hair tangled by the wind, her golden glow dimmer than before. She looked strong, but Ethan could see the truth in her tired eyes. Every battle was taking something from her. He walked toward her slowly. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded once, but she didn't speak. Instead, she turned her face toward the moonlight, her eyes half closed, like she was listening to something only she could hear. "They will come again," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Next time with more strength. They will not stop until I fall, or they do." Ethan felt a shiver crawl up his spine. He wanted to say something comforting, but nothing came to his mind. What could he possibly say to a being like her? Before he could speak, Serenia turned to him. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You carry part of my essence now," she said slowly. "It saved you tonight, but the power I gave you, it is only a shadow of what I can offer." Ethan blinked. "A shadow? You mean, there's more?" Serenia nodded. "Yes, much more. My full gift can change you forever, can give you the strength to fight beside me, to survive what is coming. But," she paused, her voice falling lower, "it comes with a price." Ethan frowned. "What price?" Serenia's eyes softened, but there was sadness there. "My gift takes what it gives. The more power you accept, the more of yourself it will drain. Your energy, your strength, maybe even your life if you take too much." Ethan stared at her. "Then why give it at all?" "Because without it," she said quietly, "you will not live through what is coming." The wind moved through the trees again, carrying a faint whisper from the darkness. The hunters were still out there, watching, waiting. Ethan could feel it like a weight pressing down on him. He looked at Serena, at the faint golden glow around her, at the tired lines on her face she tried to hide. "What do I have to do?" he asked finally. Serena stepped closer. The glow around her hands brightened, warm and soft like the sun breaking through clouds. "You must open yourself to my essence fully," she said. "It will flow into you, give you strength beyond anything you've known. But it will leave you weak at first, maybe even helpless, until your body learns to hold it." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "Helpless? For how long?" "Hours, maybe a day," Serena said. "It depends on you." Ethan hesitated. It sounded dangerous, but so did everything else about tonight. He looked around the clearing. The burnt ground, the broken trees, the memory of the hunter's red eyes watching him. He knew they would return. He also knew he wouldn't survive the next fight as he was now. "Do it," he said finally. "I'll take the risk." Serena studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Sit," she said. Ethan sat on the ground. The earth was still warm from the blasts of power. Serena knelt in front of him, her silver hair falling like a curtain of light around her face. She raised her hands. Golden energy began to swirl between them, brighter than before, thick and alive, like liquid fire mixed with sunlight. "Close your eyes," she said softly. Ethan obeyed. The moment her hands touched his chest, the energy surged into him. He gasped. It was like a river of warmth and light flooding his body, rushing through his veins, filling every corner of him until he thought he would burst. His muscles tensed. His heart pounded like thunder. It wasn't pain exactly, but it was power so raw, so alive, that it felt too big for him to hold. His breath came in sharp bursts. His hands shook. The glow spread from his chest to his arms, his legs, his whole body shining faintly like he was made of gold from the inside out. Then, slowly, the strength turned into exhaustion. His body felt heavy, his arms weak. The glow faded until it was gone, leaving him trembling, his skin damp with sweat. Serena pulled her hands back, her face calm but her eyes watching him carefully. "It is done," she said softly. "The bond is complete now." Ethan opened his eyes slowly. The world felt sharper somehow. The night air smelled stronger. The ground under him felt alive. He could hear the faint rustle of leaves far beyond the clearing. But he also felt like he had run for miles without stopping. His arms ached. His legs trembled. He understood now what she meant by the price. Serena stood, looking toward the forest again. "They will come soon," she said. "And when they do, you will be ready." Ethan hoped she was right, because right now all he felt was drained and very, very human. The night felt heavier after the power transfer. The air in the clearing was still, too still, like the forest itself waited to see what would happen next. Ethan sat on the ground, his breathing rough, his body shaking as though he had run 100 miles. The golden glow that had filled him moments ago was gone, but a strange warmth stayed in his chest, like a sleeping fire waiting to wake. Serena stood near him, her silver hair glowing softly in the moonlight, her golden eyes scanning the dark trees around them. The hunters had disappeared after their defeat, but she knew they would return. They always returned. Ethan slowly pushed himself to his feet. His legs felt heavy, but there was something new in his body, something different. The forest didn't feel silent anymore, felt alive. He could sense faint movements far beyond the trees, whispers of leaves, the quiet crackle of energy in the air. He looked at Serena. "Is this what your power feels like?" She turned toward him, studying him for a moment before nodding. "A small part of it," she said softly. "Enough to keep you alive. Enough to fight when the time comes." Ethan wasn't sure if that comforted him or made him more afraid. The wind picked up suddenly, cold and sharp, carrying the sound of distant footsteps. Ethan tensed. "They're back." Serena shook her head slowly. "Not them. Something else." From the darkness beyond the clearing, a faint blue glow appeared between the trees. Ethan's hand tightened around the branch he had carried earlier. The glow grew brighter, moving closer, until a figure stepped into the moonlight. It wasn't a hunter. It was a tall alien dressed in robes of deep blue and silver, carrying a staff topped with a crystal that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. His face was calm, his eyes glowing faint white instead of red. Serenia straightened immediately, her expression unreadable. "I thought you were dead," she said slowly. The stranger stopped a few feet away, planting his staff into the ground. "Many of us are," he said, his voice deep but steady. "The hunters burned entire worlds looking for you." Ethan looked between them, confused. You know him?" Serenia nodded faintly. "This is Kaler," she said, "one of the last of the Starborn Council." Kaler's eyes moved to Ethan, studying him with calm interest. "You carry her essence," he said. It wasn't a question. Ethan shifted uneasily. "Yeah. She said it would help me survive." Kaler's gaze returned to Serenia. "Then you have made your choice," he said. "The old ways will rise again, or they will die with us." Serenia's jaw tightened. "If we do nothing, the hunters will win. They will enslave the outer realms, burn every free world left. You know this." Kaler looked at Ethan again. "Does the human know what he carries?" Serenia was silent for a moment before saying softly, "Not yet." Ethan felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "What exactly am I carrying?" he asked carefully. Serenia turned toward him. Her golden eyes held his, steady and unblinking. "A spark of my power," she said, "but also my enemy's hatred. They will hunt you now as they hunt me." Ethan's mouth went dry. He had guessed as much, but hearing it spoken aloud felt heavier somehow. "So what happens now?" he asked. Serenia's gaze softened, but there was no warmth in her words. "Now you learn. You fight, or you die." Kaler planted his staff firmly into the ground. "The hunters are moving fast. Their masters have already sent word across the outer realms. When the suns rise, they will know the Demigoddess lives, and that she has chosen a human to bear her power." Ethan almost laughed in disbelief. "Great. So the whole galaxy will want me dead now." Neither Serenia nor Kaler smiled. "This is only the beginning," Kaler said. "The bond you carry will grow stronger, but so will the danger." Serenia stepped closer to Ethan. For the first time since he had met her, there was no glow in her eyes, no divine power in her voice, just a quiet seriousness. "You can still walk away," she said softly. "Leave this place. Forget all of it. Live your life while you can." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. He thought of the hunters, the red eyes, the dark fire cutting through trees, the way she had fought alone against all of it. He shook his head slowly. "I think it's too late for that." Serenia's eyes softened, almost like she had expected his answer. "Then your destiny begins tonight," she said. "You will train. You will learn to use what I have given you. And when the final war comes," she paused, her voice falling lower, "you will stand with me, or everything will burn." The wind roared suddenly through the clearing, carrying leaves into the night sky. Far away, the faint cry of the hunters echoed through the darkness. Ethan looked toward the sound, his fists tightening. For the first time, he didn't feel like just a traveler anymore. He felt like someone standing at the edge of a storm that would decide the fate of worlds. And deep inside, the fire Serenia had given him began to stir. A new destiny had begun.